4,600,000,000 years ago, a massive cosmic shockwave from a dying supernova violently destabilized a freezing dark interstellar molecular cloud. This catastrophic event triggered an instantaneous gravitational collapse, forcing the nebula to spin furiously into a die-flattening protoplanetary disk. While mainstream astronomy suggests this birth was entirely organized, newly generated space agency supercomputer dynamic models reveal a different reality. The earliest stage of our planetary nursery was actually a chaotic cosmic graveyard where dozens of massive worlds were obliterated before Earth formed. Advanced astrophysics proof shatters everything regarding our peaceful origin. What they saw next would change everything we thought we knew. The historical biography of our immediate cosmic domain officially originates 4,600,000,000 years ago, deep inside a freezing interstellar planetary nursery. During this ancient epoch, a massive sector of deep interstellar territory was entirely dominated by a colossal, silent molecular cloud composed of cold hydrogen gas, cosmic helium, and dense clumps of radioactive stardust left behind by deceased stellar ancestors. Observational cosmology establishes that this completely dark nebula experienced a sudden cataclysmic disruption due to an external physical force. A neighboring high-mass star reached the absolute end of its thermonuclear life cycle and detonated as a violent supernova explosion. This monumental outburst unleashed an incredibly powerful, energetic shockwave, traveling at supersonic velocities directly through the dark nebula. The extreme pressure generated by this incoming wave forced the giant cloud into an instantaneous gravitational collapse, triggering a rapid spinning motion. As angular momentum accelerated, the entire structure flattened symmetrically, creating a vast, rotating disk known as a protoplanetary disk. Centered deep within this hyper-dense swirling vortex, our infant central star began accumulating almost all surrounding matter. Modern observational astronomy provides empirical evidence regarding this highly turbulent formation epoch through advanced deep space telescopes and high-precision isotopic measurements of ancient chondrite meteorites. These primordial space rocks contain unique radioactive daughter elements and chemical anomalies that simply cannot be synthesized in a calm or organized environment. The hard data officially confirms that our system developed under conditions of extreme localized radiation and intense mechanical compression. Furthermore, advanced contemporary astrophysics reveals an even more startling evolutionary secret regarding our local star. Traditional planetary hypotheses assumed our solar parent developed in absolute isolation, but modern mathematical simulations of cluster star formation strongly indicate a completely different structural reality. Within the vast universe, nearly all sun-like stars are actually born as multiple stellar systems inside dense parental clusters. This mechanical reality underpins the compelling scientific hypothesis of Nemesis, a theoretical companion star born from the exact same primordial molecular mist. This lost twin shared the original protoplanetary disk, constantly pulling the early planetary building blocks with its massive gravitational field. Before any large modern worlds could establish permanent orbital configurations, extreme gravitational interactions and close flybys shattered the system. This giant disruption permanently ejected Nemesis out into the dark interstellar void, leaving our sun completely solitary. Following the sudden energetic collapse of the primordial nebula, the vast distribution of gas and dust spinning at the cold outer borders condensed at an incredible pace. Within this freezing peripheral zone, an immense accumulation of rocky fragments and thick gases rapidly consolidated to form the earliest massive planetary embryo. This hyper-accelerated structural evolution allowed the newborn gas giant, Jupiter, to develop first, devouring almost all local materials to establish an overwhelming gravitational presence across the cosmic neighborhood. Traditional historical hypotheses assumed that the major planets permanently maintained their current coordinates throughout history, developing in perfect isolation. However, newly formalized supercomputer tracking models officially released by NASA violently shatter this peaceful perspective, introducing a revolutionary dynamic framework known to advanced astrophysics as the Grand Tack Hypothesis. This core theory demonstrates that the early architecture of our solar system was fundamentally driven by a violent, unpredictable planetary migration process. During the initial several 100,000 years of planetary development, the thick remainder of the original gas disk exerted an immense aerodynamic drag upon the spinning giant. Deprived of its original orbital velocity, the gargantuan planet was forced into a rapid inward spiral toward the center, embarking on a highly destructive invasion of the warm inner domain. The massive gas monster marched aggressively across open space until it reached a location just 1.5 astronomical units away from the central star. This extreme coordinate placed Jupiter directly at the precise region where Mars resides today, deep within the primary zone destined for terrestrial world formation. This sudden inward journey acted like a titanic cosmic wrecking ball, creating absolute structural chaos across local space. The overwhelming gravitational resonance of the invading giant systematically destabilized the stable circular paths of dozens of primitive rocky super-Earths that had developed early in the inner zone. Jupiter completely tore apart these pristine material belts, crushing early planetary embryos together through extreme scattering events and sending countless mangled fragments plunging directly into the burning star. The entire internal domain was turned into a depleted cosmic graveyard of shattered stone and vaporized debris. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Am I the only one who finds this unsettling? This colossal gravitational tyrant completely dominated local coordinates, vacuuming the remaining stardust and preventing any stable matter accretion near the star. The thick outer gas layers of the giant expanded significantly, casting a dark gravitational shadow that warped the orbital planes of remaining planetesimals. Every single primitive protoplanet within the internal sector faced complete structural liquidation under this immense tidal friction. The local space environment was rapidly approaching a terminal point of absolute barrenness, where the material blocks required to build long-term habited platforms were being permanently eradicated. This dark epoch demonstrates that star system evolution is dictated by intense, localized bow look rather than a gentle, progressive design. The wide universe operates through these raw, unforgiving mechanical forces, leaving whole planetary generations smashed into absolute nothingness before a single stable world can even establish a permanent path. The destructive onward march of Jupiter inward threatened to completely obliterate every possibility of future habitability in the internal zone. As the giant gas monster plowed deeper into the warm disk, it systematically crushed small celestial objects and completely cleared out the essential planetary raw materials. The entire internal region faced total structural annihilation. However, a massive counterforce was silently developing further out in the sub-zero darkness. The second gas giant, Saturn, was accumulating material at an incredible pace and rapidly growing large enough to exert its own significant gravitational presence. This celestial body quickly initiated its own rapid inward journey, mimicking the path of its larger predecessor and altering the mechanical stability of the system. The dangerous close proximity of these two giants soon triggered a profound physical phenomenon known to modern astronomy as orbital resonance. The smaller giant caught up to the larger giant, trapping both objects in a tight, synchronized mathematical loop. For every 2 complete revolutions executed around the star by Saturn, Jupiter completed exactly 3. This specific 2 to 3 orbital resonance created a massive gravitational tug-of-war, dramatically shifting the dense gas concentrations behind them. The immense backward pulling force generated by Saturn effectively locked onto the larger planet, acting as a cosmic emergency brake. This structural stabilization abruptly halted the inward migration of the larger world and initiated a dramatic outward retreat. This profound cosmic reversal forced both bodies to turn around and execute a massive dynamic exit back toward the fringe. This sudden, fateful reversal left behind a highly distinct, narrow and heavily stripped band of solid debris in the internal domain. This zone had been severely eroded by Jupiter during its initial devastating feast, leaving only a tiny fraction of the original planetary building blocks. Yet, it was from these exact isolated remnants that the internal system was saved. Over the subsequent several million years of constant collisions, this depleted ring of crushed stone and metallic grains began a slow accretion process. The remaining fragmented debris gradually consolidated to assemble the 4 minor rocky planets we document today: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Our planet was not born from a beautiful, abundant cradle of infinite resources. It is an accidental byproduct of survival, molded from the heavily scarred ruins that the gas giants left behind. Our existence is entirely a backup plan engineered by a fortunate cosmic coincidence. Understanding this violent transition through a cinematic science documentary completely reshapes our understanding of local history. When complex science is explained through empirical observation, we realize that the birth of planetary systems involves intense trauma. The absolute chaos that rearranged this sector illustrates that space structures evolve through immense physical stress. This mechanical realignment was essential because a peaceful configuration would have resulted in our matter being permanently pushed into the star. The delicate balance achieved after this grand migration allowed life to emerge on a fragile world. The temporary stabilization engineered by the migration of the gas giants did not signify a permanent end to celestial evolution. Beyond the inner domain, a massive structural tension was quietly escalating within the cold peripheral borders. Advanced mathematical data regarding celestial mechanics, formalized by researchers as the Nice model, exposes a completely inverted historical reality. During this primordial epoch, the original positions of the ice giants, Uranus and Neptune, were completely opposite to their modern configurations. Neptune actually developed significantly closer to the central star than Uranus, situated right inside a tightly packed outer planetary ring. This unconventional architecture meant that the entire peripheral system was structurally highly compressed, maintaining an extremely delicate and unstable gravitational equilibrium. This fragile structural balance collapsed completely several hundred million years later due to a slow, relentless gravitational synchronization. As the outer worlds interacted with the dense primordial planetesimal disk, their orbital mechanics shifted until Jupiter and Saturn established a 1-to-2 resonance. This precise alignment meant that for every single orbit completed by Saturn, Jupiter executed exactly 2 revolutions around the star. This unique gravitational coupling amplified the kinetic forces across space, unleashing a massive energetic kick that shattered the structural configuration of the outer sectors. The sudden amplification of gravitational energy completely destabilized the ice giants. Neptune was violently husted outward, bypassing Uranus and plunging directly into the pristine, frozen repository of the ancient Kuiper Belt. This explosive mechanical interaction immediately triggered a massive epoch of absolute destruction known as the Late Heavy Bombardment. As Neptune plowed aggressively through the dense outer ring, its immense gravitational field scattered billions of massive icy objects and primitive comets in every single direction. This disruption unleashed a relentless cosmic crossfire that inundated the entire internal system, turning local space into a chaotic battlefield. Billions of tons of sub-zero ice boulders and dense stones rocketed inward, colliding directly with the young rocky worlds. This extreme bow look scarred the faces of the inner planets, blasting millions of giant impact craters onto the surfaces of Earth and our Moon. Yet, this cataclysmic trauma was simultaneously a crucial mechanism for future habitability. While advanced space exploration analyzes these ancient lunar craters as dark remnants of a chaotic universe, this brutal bombardment carried the primary seeds of life. These primitive incoming ice comets were highly enriched with primordial water molecules and essential complex carbon components. This violent influx delivered the vast oceans and organic elements directly onto our planetary surface. Our vast blue seas were not natively generated from within. They were violently deposited from the frozen deep during an epoch of absolute mechanical breakdown. The ultimate structure of our habitat required immense structural destruction. Unlike the crushing density of black holes or the predictable micromechanics found in quantum physics, our local planetary architecture developed through a fragile sequence of massive dynamic accidents. The intense atmospheric bombardment from the outer sectors eventually subsided, allowing the reshaped internal orbits to achieve a temporary geological stillness. During this post-migration epoch, the primitive early Earth, scientifically designated as Gaia, began cooling down within its permanent orbital track. However, our world was destined to face its ultimate evolutionary trial. Sharing almost the exact same orbital path was a wandering sister planetesimal named Theia, a massive planetary embryo roughly the size of modern Mars. This celestial body maintained an unstable trajectory for several million years until a sudden gravitational disturbance forced it into a direct terminal path. The planetesimal advanced relentlessly, triggering a catastrophic head-on collision that completely shattered both young worlds. Empirical validation for this terrifying historical event originates directly from physical material retrieved during historic lunar exploration initiatives. Laboratory spectroscopy, analyzing pristine moon rock samples from international archives, confirms a perfect identical match in oxygen isotope ratios compared directly with terrestrial mantle chemistry. This extreme molecular precision validates the famous giant impact hypothesis, proving our satellite is not an independent body. What would you feel if you saw this with your own eyes? Let me know below what struck you the most. The mechanical consequence of this unprecedented physical impact immediately transformed local non-space territory into a sea of liquid fire. The titanic energetic release completely vaporized the rocky outer crusts of both planetary bodies, launching a massive ring of superheated vaporized debris into orbit. Deep within the melting core, the dense iron heart of the colliding planetesimal sank through the molten liquid to merge permanently with Earth's internal center. This massive metallic infusion drastically increased our planet's mass and density, creating the immense churning dynamo that generates our protective magnetic shield. Without this crucial field, powerful solar winds would have permanently stripped away our fragile atmosphere, preventing any potential development of advanced alien life across the surface. Simultaneously, the vast ring of vaporized rocky material orbiting the planetary wreckage slowly cooled down, condensing over several centuries to assemble our moon. This brutal cosmic crime was absolutely mandatory for our modern survival. Without this violent cosmic collision, Earth would lack the stable 23.5-degree axial tilt that generates our predictable seasonal cycles. Furthermore, our world would have no powerful oceanic stabilities or steady rotational velocity, creating an environment where complex human civilization could never exist. While modern aerospace innovators like SpaceX engineering teams build machines to pierce the upper atmosphere, and theoretical thinkers research the physics of a multidimensional multiverse, the ultimate blueprint of our origin remains anchored to this ancient battlefield. We are the direct biological product of a massive planetary resurrection. As we pull our analytical focus away from those violent interplanetary collisions and return to the quiet, serene orbit of our modern era, a profound realignment of perspective occurs. I look at our stable blue oceans and calm atmospheric boundaries today, realizing that this peaceful scenery is a deeply deceptive illusion. The physical history we discovered unearths a startling reality. Every single breath of oxygen we take, and every precious drop of water sustaining our terrestrial ecosystems, was paid for by the absolute destruction of an entire first-generation planetary architecture. Our current environment is not a guaranteed outcome of natural stability. It is a lucky statistical miracle engineered inside a volatile cosmic furnace. The matter composing our bodies floated through deep space as discarded debris from ancient stellar deaths, surviving the savage clearing event of Jupiter, the orbital displacement of Neptune, and the crushing impact of Theia. This mechanical journey shifts our core position from insignificance to profound empowerment. We are not separate from the violent forces that rearranged this sector. We are their direct biological remnants. The intense structural stress that pulverized primitive super-Earths and fractured early horizons was the exact mechanism required to isolate the precise raw materials necessary for human evolution. Our local environment developed through an incredible sequence of fragile, random synchronization. This scientific truth demonstrates that creation and annihilation are completely inseparable parameters inside cosmic evolution. Traumatic structural breakdown is frequently the fundamental prerequisite for advanced biological development. When we analyze the deep remnants of local evolutionary history through precise mathematical models and physical astrophysics data, the true scope of our existence becomes clear. Our current understanding of stellar mechanisms proves that nature operates through intense transitions rather than perpetual harmony. The absolute chaos that forged our homeworld should not inspire cosmic terror, but rather a profound sense of hope and immense purpose. We are the conscious universe, looking back at the scarred battlefields of its own primitive dawn, seeking order within the dark architecture of infinity. Every anomaly we document, and every new model that shatters our historical assumptions, brings us closer to deciphering the grand cosmic blueprint. The planetary network we observe reflects a brilliant structural triumph born directly from catastrophic historical movements. We must recognize that our delicate habitat is a beautiful monument assembled on an ancient cosmic battlefield, proving that out of total physical devastation, life can ultimately master the stars. The universe isn't broken. Our map of it is just incomplete. What do you think? Does this change how you see our place in the cosmos? I'll keep exploring if there's more to uncover. Thank you so very much for watching. The universe is full of terrifying yet beautiful mysteries, and exploring them together makes this journey incredible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark cosmos, please subscribe and leave a comment below. I will keep exploring. See you all next time.